Reverb Experiment, episode number 6.
Six.
I ain't gonna do no long introduction. You already know who it is. G_focus on the mic. We got Steph.net in the building. We got Raggio in the building.
Raggio.
We got Photo B in the building.
What's poppin'?
We got a very jam-packed show for you today.
Ooh.
What we
It
talking
is
about?
National Girlfriend Day.
I ain't got one of those.
Oh.
A word.
Every
Every episode, you gotta just let us know that you can sing. We got it. Like
We got
signing.
Moesha on Netflix.
Yes.
I ain't watching
Man.
it. I ain't watching it.
Hater.
Black is King came out yesterday. So we got a lot of things we're going to talk about today.
Hakuna Matata.
Today we are going to make sure that we give you guys an update on Tory Lanez and the Meg Thee Stallion situation. We're
David
also
versus Goliath.
Here we go with the jokes. We are also going to share our thoughts on the Black is King album by Beyonce. And we are also going to break down and give our thoughts on the Michelle Obama's first podcast and welcome her to the podcast world. So today we definitely want to make sure before we get into our topics, everybody's been talking about it. I know the NBA, they had their stance. All the sports had their stance. We also, you guys already know our stance from episode, I think, number 1, we talked about it. But we are definitely demanding all justice for anybody that has been murdered or killed or hurt on behalf of police brutality. We are definitely standing in and asking and demanding for the killers of Breonna Taylor to be arrested. So today we wanted to dedicate this show to our Black queens, to our Black women.
Let's go.
Right? So always.
So you start the month off right.
Shout out to Queen.
Right?
Shout out to Queens,
Shout out to
right?
Queens.
Steph.net.
Steph.net has been holding it
Exemplary.
down.
Look at that smile. Happy as hell. It's like, it's about me now.
She's your queen, So to help us out with that, we actually have a special guest. We are going to conduct our first phone interview. Obviously, because of COVID-19, we want to make sure everybody stays safe. So we have Elika Bernard. She is a community organizer and advocate for Black trans women. She has co-founded Black Women United, which hosted the Black Women's March and had speakers such as Senator Holly Mitchell, MC Light, Elaine Brown, and a host of other powerful Black women. In 2019, she was hired as a regional organizing director for Senators Elizabeth Warren for president and is now working as a public information officer. So just because we got a caller, we're going to go ahead and give her a round of applause right now.
Shout out to her for real.
Shout out. That's a lengthy introduction, but it's all warranted, right? We got to put some respect on her name.
Put some respect
So we're
on
going
her
to go
name.
ahead and give her a call so we can get this interview started. And give me 1 second, because, we got to make sure this technology work, right?
Come on.
Right.
We were supposed to do that in the warm up.
I think we did.
Huh?
Hey.
Hi.
Hello. So we've already introduced you just because we had to give some air horns, give you some respect on your name, but we wanted to make sure that we welcomed you with proper respect. So I know you haven't spoken to the rest of the crew. We've spoken. This is Elika Bernard.
Good morning.
You have Steph.net, you have
Hey.
Raggio, and you have Photo B here
How's it
with
going?
you.
How's it going?
Yes. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good
You
morning.
sound like you have good energy this morning. I love it.
I just had coffee, so you got a short window before this caffeine.
All right. So with no further ado, so we've already said that we're dedicating this episode to Black women. So we definitely want to shout out to you.
Thank you.
And we want to just go ahead and dig on into it. We're not going to beat around the bush. We're going to go ahead and get into the interview.
Yes.
So first question that we have for you is, what do you love most about being a Black woman?
I think I love, I love my skin. It's just, it's so smooth and soft and luxurious, and in different times of the year, it has different tints. And
Word?
it's it's just luxurious. I love my skin. I love the fact that I come from such greatness. Like, I have the blood of Harriet Tubman
Come on.
literally
That's a
running through
bar.
my veins. And I love the creativity that I inherited from my ancestors because it's just an unending source of dopeness that I have access to that nobody else can be me except me. And that's what I love about being a Black woman.
That's
That was
fire.
beautiful.
That is amazing.
That was a
That's a
perfect
you,
answer.
You know how
That's
you
great.
can tell that it's genuine because it just flowed. It
just
made
flowed.
me feel.
Yes.
Right. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Makes sense.
Dope.
Yes.
So,
Okay. Next question that we have for you was, in your work with BWU, what did you hope to accomplish while you were there, and why was it so important?
So when BWU started, it wasn't like we had planned for BWU to start. I don't think people realize that. We really just wanted to create space for Black women to be celebrated because that didn't exist. And so when you want to do something on that scale, because we had people who wanted to sponsor us, you have to have somewhere to put the money.
Right.
And they're not, these organizations aren't going to write personal checks. And so I didn't come into planning the Black Women's March for it to be this movement. I just came in wanting to serve and create space. So my intention was to just celebrate Black women and for the voices of Black women to be centered in the Black liberation movement. So those were my intentions. What happened was something totally beyond like what I could have ever imagined. And that was me finding myself, me finding parts of my Blackness that I had disconnected with. Because of like Christianity and going to a private white, university and stuff like that. I found parts of myself, and I found parts of myself in my Blackness and my womanhood through my relationships with the Black women in Black Women United and just developing sisterhood. And it wasn't easy all the time, but our intentions were to lift the voices of trans Black women, non-binary Black folks, queer Black women, and really just give a voice to, Black girls and really bring our issues to the forefront because it gets swept under the rug so easily in mainstream media and in our community.
Yes.
That's true. So, and I you already know the answer. I already know the answer to this, but for the audience that's listening, why is it important to include everybody in that conversation, not just, one demographic or what we are used to seeing as far as Black women or as far as the typical Black woman that we see on TV? Why is it important for you to include every single aspect of life in the fight for equality when it comes to that?
Do you mean in the Black women's movement?
In Black women, excuse me. Yes, Black women.
In our demographic, because even though we are all different, there's Muslim Black women, there's disabled Black women, there are non-binary, there are Black women who are biological women but don't identify with womanhood, even though they are biological women, they don't identify with the gender, but they're still treated in society as Black women. And so we have to even include their narrative of who they are and how they identify, because although Black women are the most diverse, we're the most diverse demographic on the planet. There are hundreds of variations of Black women and Black womanhood. And so I think we wanted people to know, one, Black women aren't a monolith. We are extremely different, but we are treated the same by society. Even though Black women are the most educated demographic in the United States, we still make less than white men and white women and Black men. And that is, to me, is just so ridiculous. Absurd. And so we're more powerful when we come together in our demographic.
Yes.
We're more powerful in our diversity. And that's what I always tell people, like, even though we're different, I'm not a trans Black woman, but trans Black women are still treated worse than cis-het Black women. And so we can't throw away their story because we don't identify with how they identify in their gender or in their sexuality or anything like that. We can't be throwing Black women away if it doesn't meet this cookie cutter box. And I think for me, I have found home with trans Black women because I never really felt like I fit in. I never felt like I was like feminine enough to to fit in with some Black women. Now I have Black women that are my friends, that are friends for life. I have 6 Black sisters, but I just this whole like Michelle Obama type Black woman. Like I never felt like I was gonna be a Michelle Obama. I felt more like what's her name? Wanda Sykes. You know what I'm saying? Like I felt like I was more like a Wanda Sykes type. You know, although I looked up to Felicia Rashad when she was Claire Huxtable. Oh, I had a huge crush on her growing up. I just never saw that I could ever be like that, you know, feminine. That was just like, I always felt, you know, a little rough and tough on my side. And how my womanhood, because I wasn't light-skinned, because I wasn't skinny, you know what I'm saying? How my womanhood has been treated in my community is that there's a certain box that we have of Black women that we consider to be the epitome of femininity in our community. And for the rest of us that don't fit in that, we're treated less than. And so I feel at home with Black women who don't fit into that box and that privilege of looking and being and looking a certain way. Although those women, it's not their fault.
Right. Miss Elika, this is Raji. I have a question. It sounds to me, what I really like is that inside of your work, you've created a safe space for people to express who they are, and then for the inward portion, and outwardly find a place for them to where they fit in, and then advocate for equality based on you know what I mean? So I do understand what you're saying, growing up and not feeling the same. And so in your work, is it more gratifying to create a safe space where everyone is where everyone can be themselves, or is it more gratifying that once they find themselves, to find a place out in the world where they fit in and they can be successful?
I would say both. I would say I think the biggest joy and success for me was seeing Black women organize for other Black women. And we don't do that. Like, you think about other racial groups, they have lobbyists, they have everything. They have people who advocate for them, but Black women don't typically organize stuff surrounding just for Black women in our community. Usually it's to benefit the community. But when it comes to Black women, seeing other Black women say, I learned this in BWU and now I'm going to go do this for other Black women. Like, that's how we take care of each other. And I think that for me, because we did a spa day last year, because one thing I realized as a community organizer is that Black women are holding up our community in ways that are unseen. Unseen. The labor, oh my God, the emotional, intellectual, and physical labor that Black women take on. And those Black women, no one is taking care of those Black women. No one in our community, in our society, is taking care of those Black women. And so we did a spa day where I wanted to take care of the organizers of the Black community. And I washed 50 feet that day. And we had hand washing, and they had full body massage, facials. We had it catered. It was beautiful. And what came out of that was Black women nurturing and caring physically for each other in ways that we have been denied. And seeing other Black women go and replicate that and do that for other Black women to each other. There were some Black women who were crying when they were getting their feet washed. They said nobody hasn't touched their feet in 20 years.
Wow.
And to be able to wash a Black woman's, feet was just, that in itself is like holy for me.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. We've been having lots of conversations about the role of women. Like our last episode was, the protection of Black women and the lack thereof of protection of Black women, and kind of how we were talking about how it was kind of imparted unto you guys to be the backbone, just because of the way of the way things were, systemic racism, the lack of fathers, things prior. So it sounds to me that you have a good concept or a good grasp of things that we've been passed down through our lineage. And I think it's super important that we figure out a way to support our strong friends, which in this instance would be you know, the black women. I agree with you 100% that you guys are the backbone.
Man.
Steph, go ahead. I know you got to say something.
No,
Steph.
I'm just that's beautiful. I mean, as far as taking care of the organizers, I think we talked about that during the Protest and Chill episode of, you know, the sacrifice that is made to be a community organizer, and to see that care or actual event or avenue for the organizers. I mean, I hadn't even thought of something like that. So to see somebody do it, it's like, wow.
Yeah. And just even to think, you know, when you say that's holy to you, I mean, you know, obviously everybody has different views on their religion. And I know me and you kind of talked off camera or off interview where you said that you were born Christian or you were raised Christian. And I think just the principle of you washing somebody else's feet ties in with Jesus washing the disciples' feet, and basically told them that as I'm washing your feet so that way you would go wash other people's feet, or basically meaning I'm serving you so that way you can go serve others. And I think that principle ties in with what you're saying, is that because I'm serving you so that way then you can then learn that principle and then go out and then serve other black women, because we all need to be nourished, or they all need to be nourished and be taken care of. So I think that is a beautiful principle that we can all apply in all aspects of our lives. And
I feel like I feel like that's kind of a principle, but I almost feel like it's the reverse order. I feel like that these women and these community leaders have been serving so much that I feel like it's about time somebody takes.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like we talked about the podcast prior, I feel like as a black man, I feel like we're lacking in that department for the women
in the serving department.
In the serving department.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
So I feel like somebody like Miss Elika that takes the forefront. The example is for myself, right? And then other men like us who care about figuring out, you know, how do we become better men, and how do we and more or less alleviate them of some of the pressure that they have to take on, or the weight that they have to carry with the kids and the sports and the drugs and the violence, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, or just do our part.
Right. Well, something.
Yeah.
Something's got to change, bro.
Yeah. So,
and sometimes it's so easy, just ask.
Yeah.
Like, sis, what do you need? And you know what? That might be a hard question for a black woman to answer, because we don't get asked that often. But when she tells you what she needs, know that it took a lot of vulnerability for her to say that. And when she tells you, I don't care if she said one thing that's her oil needs to be changed in her car. You better do it, because she gonna remember.
These are facts.
Yeah, man. Ooh,
there's a saying that you can do it right 5 times and you mess up once.
Yeah.
You better change that oil, son.
We have standards too.
Yeah, no, that's true. So with that conversation, with the relationship between black men and black women, what role does the media play in the portrayal of the relations between black men and black women?
That's a bar question.
What role does the media play?
Yes.
I think the media has painted black women and black men as adversarial.
Agreed.
But I grew up like watching Family Matters. You know, I watched Fresh Prince. I watched the Cosbys. And so I didn't really see that in the media. You know what I'm saying? Growing up like that.
Sure.
I do see how black men are portrayed as individuals and how black women are portrayed as individuals in the black family structure. That's just like from what I've seen, and how black women and black men are demonized in the media. And yesterday, after watching Black is King, I realized that the whole movie was positive images of our blackness.
Yes.
And how psychologically damaging white American media has been on the psyches of black people and the people who watch it. Because the people, what I've noticed, the people who watch and believe white American media about Black people are in turn very anti-Black and hella racist. And now we have to deal with like people of color who internalize the racism that they see on television, because our history is not taught in the books. And so they're taking what white people are telling them about Black people and standing on our shoulders and treating us like shit.
Right.
And so it plays out like white media is so demonic to me. Like, it is the devil. And how we're not in charge of telling our stories, and how we have to fight for our stories to even be told, because the Black family and the Black relationship between Black women, queer people, and I'm not just talking about Black men, because I'm talking about Black people in relationships in general.
Right.
It's just the complexities of it are not like, it's not given space. And so we really don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I definitely identify with what you're saying as far as growing up. We did have shows like Family Matters, Cosby's, Martin, Different World,
Fresh
Living
Prince.
and Single,
Right, all types of,
Living Single. Were you able to see that? But there was also this split where you had those, but then you also had music. And in the early 90s, it was more of a conscious vibe, right? You had the Ice Cubes, you had the NWA. Obviously, they had controversial messages both back and forth. And then there was a shift where kind of the gangster rap kind of started taking over. And then it started to become more misogynistic, more, hatred towards the Black women. So where you would go on TV and you would see the relationship between a Laura and a Steve Urkel, or you would see the relationship between a Martin and Gina, but then in your music you would hear songs like Ain't No Fun, or you would hear songs like you know what I mean. So and then even today, like, we're excited because you got Black shows that are showing up on Netflix. You got, different, and we're like, oh man, we finally got a Black show. So it's like we went from a place where we had like 5 to 10 different different shows that you can see different shows, but now we're like, we have Blackish, Grownish,
Insecure,
Black as fuck, and
mixed-ish.
Every you gotta be an ish or black in the title.
Can't be all the way. Gotta be kind of.
If you look at our community and you look at the music is reflective of what was going on in the community. Yes. And so when, we had all of these things that happened to our community that pushed us back, redlining, Jim Crow era, crack epidemic, all of those things that we never recovered from, but you would see like the pain reflected in the music.
Right.
And I think one thing I really saw, especially with rap music, is how capitalism infiltrated conscious rap. And how I saw, and this is just totally honest, every white woman that became a rapper or that did some problematic anti-Black shit was given permission by a Black man.
That's true.
When Miley Cyrus came on with her grill, she was given permission by a Black man. When Fergie did it with them greasy ass cornrows that she had that one time, a Black man gave her what's the one that stole the Brat's voice?
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Iggy.
I thought so.
And she was co-signed by T.I.
T.I.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then we have the erasure of Black women in music. And we have the abuse and all that stuff like that. I just like, where did all of this come from?
Right.
Because not saying that it was even any better in the 90s. I think it's always been like this. And I'm reading this book, and I think everybody should read this book. It's called Wounds of the Spirit. And it's about intimate violence, sexual violence towards Black women. And it's a very healing book. And the book starts out with the author saying, in order for us to understand this abuse in our community, we have to listen to the stories. And she goes all the way back to slavery.
That's a point.
She went all the way back to slavery and reading the stories. And it wasn't traumatic for me. It was actually very healing for me, because a lot of the things that were happening to those to the slave women by Black men are still happening today. And she wrote one of the the stories told. She said, when racism is discussed in this country, it's discussed in the terms of Black males. Being a Black woman is difficult in the United States, to say the least. There's the dictum, I would say, in the Black community that men come first, the Black men come first. The Black men are the ones that are oppressed, and the rest of us need to support them in surviving racism, like we don't have to survive racism. And we are somehow privileged in this country that we get all the good jobs. We get to go to college. We have it just fine here. And the poor Black men are the ones that we need to somehow reach out to and help. And I don't know, sacrifice our lives for. That has always just struck me as being ridiculous. Anytime at all when racism is discussed in this country, it's discussed in the terms of Black males. Everyone else is kind of fodder in their tribulations. That what I think it means to be a Black woman. It's just like this kind of loss, a sense of self. You're kind of just a castaway. This was written in the 40s. She wrote that in the 40s.
Yo, you know what's crazy? What's crazy is I've just been listening for like the last 5 minutes. I'm gathering my thoughts. But the relationship, I hate that as Black people we start our history at slavery. It's such a discredit to who we were before slavery, right? Because our history doesn't start at slavery. Our U.S. history starts at slavery. And at that point, then we can get into, I feel like, conditioning of relationships between Black men and Black women. And I think it's essential to understand the process in which we were positioned, and the process in which slavery did position us. I don't agree that Black men should be the primary victims of slavery, but the befallment and the victimization of Black men did force Black women to have to live in positions and uphold situations that they weren't ever supposed to have to encumber by themselves. So when you look at the whole history and the totality of what we're talking about, then you have, like we said, the music industry, and we have the media. The music was what it was, but white people paid Black people more money to be destructive against our culture, to talk about the misogynistic behaviors, to talk about pimping and pandering, to talk about drugs. So a lot of the things that these people were talking about, yes, hip hop was supposed to be about the community, right? But if somebody's giving you $1 million to make up stories about your life and to live lies about someone else's lives, or to take excerpts from other people's lives, create an album, I give you $1 million and I let you tour, people are gonna do what they need to do to get out of the hood and to live better lives. I think because the way that we were situated outside of slavery, not having jobs, not having our money, not getting our reparations, it forced Black people to make decisions that were contrary to the community for personal gain.
Right, and I think that's what she was saying with how capitalism infiltrated our communities and the music and the media, and then on top of that, the white media is the devil. That's exactly why I agree. It's our culture, but honestly, it's really
sale,
white
though.
media.
It's for sale.
Well,
as long as our culture is for sale, you can never right the ship of the relationship between a Black man and a Black woman. Because how do you decondition the next generation from our bad habits if all they hear is bad habits of misogyny? How do you decondition them?
By having shows like this.
That's a bar. But how do you know what I'm saying? So
I don't ever blame Black people for how we've had to survive white supremacy.
Right. I agree.
You know what I'm saying? But at some point, they're not going to keep selling if we don't keep buying.
Facts.
And
That's a bar.
Black men, yeah, I know it's hard, but if I can do it,
yeah, that's great.
No, it's not hard. It's not hard.
No, I said it's a bar. It's a bar. I was agreeing with you. Yeah, I said that's a bar.
Yeah, I feel you. And it's like, Black men tend, because of the patriarchy, Black men tend to be the gatekeepers of culture.
Yes.
And I see our culture get sold out all the time.
Yes.
All the time.
Yes.
And and that's why we see so much blackfishing with the Kardashians and how they want to be Black women.
Say that.
And it terrifies me that those white women are raising Black girls.
Come on, man. When you come out with box braids.
Well, you know, come on. You know what's crazy is that I wrote that I said culture vultures would not be available, or would not be able to be here if there was not a willing participant.
Bro.
So
There was not a willing participant.
and the context that I wrote that in is when Dame Dash was on his, Everybody's a Culture Vulture tour, and when he said, "Oh, this guy that owns Def Jam, he's a culture vulture. Lior, he's a culture vulture. He's a culture vulture." And then I was like, "Bro, but you were doing business with him.
Taking all the
checks.
So when you were making money,
right,
it was
okay.
fine.
Right.
But now that you're on the downcline, now you're a culture vulture.
Right.
You know who did the same thing? Kurt Franklin did the same thing to. Was it the Dove Awards or whatever?
Oh yeah. When he refused to do the Dove Awards. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he was like, they snubbed me, they're racist. Well, you were fine with it when other black women were getting snubbed, but you were getting your coins, sir.
Yeah.
So don't act like it's a problem now.
You know why I like that? Because there's no discrimination in that.
No.
In that there's no discrimination in that context, right?
No.
Because Kurt Franklin is supposed to be on our side, right? But you have to take the whole side, and that's why we have to have these conversations. Because I guarantee you, Kurt Franklin never thought about that in that perspective.
But that's where capitalism.
No.
But
that's where
is.
capitalism
That
comes
is.
in. It's when I'm capitalizing off of
Right.
it, then I'm
Right.
silent.
Like she said, for
Right.
Miley Cyrus, there was a Mike Will Made It. For Kim Kardashian or for Khloe Kardashian, there's a Thompson or a Reggie
Ray
Bush
J.
or a
Ray
Ray
J.
or
Yes.
a Kanye, right? And so every time we lose something, it's because we always lose the rights to our creativity, and there's nothing more important than our intellectual property, right? And we put that up for sale.
We sell it.
Right? We
Yes.
put that up for sale. And not only do we put it up for sale, but we don't protect the masters of it
Oh,
once we
that-
sell it.
No.
So not only have they conditioned us from slavery, from master-slave relationship in slavery, but they even call it master slaves in music.
Right.
The lighting system, I'm an electrical engineering. It's still called master and slaves. The condition of master and slave, one leads another. It's still implemented into the society.
Well, and what's crazy about it is the people that do the opposite, that do for self, like
Oh yeah.
like a I just use an example, like a Nipsey Hussle, then the system is set up so that way we then, I'm not saying we, I'm sorry, as a community, we then resent him to the fact where that he got killed in his own neighborhood,
Right.
where he was trying to help the whole community get more, inclusion and get more money and set people up so that way they can be more self-sufficient. And then he was murdered.
Guess
So
who-
it was like, even when you do make it out, and even when you do own your own masters, and even when you do set up for people to succeed, we hate ourselves so much that then we resent him instead of looking at, so why don't we hate the Liors? Why don't we hate the people that are at the top of these record labels as much as we hate the Nipsey Hussles and all the other people that are doing it for themselves?
Can we break down that weed though? Can we break down that weed?
Yeah, go for it.
Because black women aren't out murdering each other. So I wouldn't say
a
that
bar
we
too.
hate each other. I would say, and I was watching Django this morning because I had, you know what I'm saying? It's like it's a stress relief for me. And y'all know what scene I'm talking about.
Last scene, huh?
Like 4 times.
The past time, it makes me feel good.
I was watching, Django this morning. Is one of my spiritual rituals, and there was this scene in the movie where these two black men were fighting, and they were like sparring, and they were like, one had to kill the other, and the way that the white people were surrounding them, egging, this fight, it was like some high class society type stuff. And I was like, they used to make black men fight each other.
Yeah.
It's engraved.
And looking at, I have a son. I cannot imagine my son shooting another black man. I cannot even imagine. But then I look at how toxic our men in our community are taught to disconnect from nurturing each other. Like there is no empathy at the point. If you shooting another black man, you don't have no empathy for him because you've been taught not to have no empathy for him. You taught it's been wrong to hug, to cry, to hold each other accountable. All that stuff is seen as gay, when no, that's how you build relationship.
Facts.
And all of the things. And now, mind you, Black women, we are hard on each other. We still criticize each other, and that's because society doesn't give a shit about us. But when I see Black men kill another Black man, it tells me that he has been taught to disconnect with the feminine side of him that teaches him how to nurture himself so that he can have the compassion for his brother. Like, I can't imagine my son not hugging on his little friend. Or, they'd be wrestling. He used to hold hands with his little friend when he was little. My son is not gay, but he used to hold and if he was, okay, he would hold his friend's hand and they would walk.
I think that what you're saying right now is piggybacking on to what I talked about a little bit earlier. It's how we're conditioned. Like you said, when you had the Mandingos fighting one another, right? It wasn't just a fight. It was the separation from the house nigger and the field nigger, right? Yeah. And so it's a conscious effort to construct division within a divide already. We're already segregated and we already can't come in. But what we're going to do is we're going to make you a high class personnel of a low class situation, right? And we're going to let you look down on the low class person in that low class situation. And systemically, when you free us, when we're freed, we're taught that. That's engraved into us. That's embedded into us. The women don't kill each other and murder each other because you guys have always been in the protective, nurturing, trying to defuse the situation mode. So that's what it is right now, right? I said something that was key last episode. How do we go from mothers being nurturing, being protecting, being the provider, being the provision, because the Black men are still in this condition where they hate each other through gang violence, right? And they hate each other through, we're living through the process of fighting the police. How do we, as Black men, what would it take for us to be able to hit that psychological switch from being a child to being a man, right? Because what you're asking us to do is you're asking us to abandon everything that we've been taught as children. And as an adult, in a relationship mostly, right? You want us to be a man that protects, that provides, that nurtures, that hugs, that loves, that gives you a place of safety, right? How do we implement that now into our children, right? And this way the system is set up, we're still losing by police brutality. And we're still losing to gang violence and gun violence in Sacramento, right? So at what point do we start doing that work? And my question is really from you to you, what does it take from your perspective to implement that change? Because it's really it's a generational thing, right? So we're not talking about on a personal basis. If we're just talking in general, which we've been, right, then we need to figure out how do we change the narrative and how do we psychologically decondition what Black men are and recondition Black men to be partners with themselves and Black women, right?
I would say first is don't separate your child from the adult, meaning your inner child is just because you grow up into become a man, your inner child doesn't go anywhere. And I don't know very many Black men. I mean, a lot of my close Black friend men are all in therapy, and I know therapy is like a token word right now. But Black men cannot be fathers because their inner child and their child, when they were children, they weren't fathered. And so you have to, just like I have to do this for myself, you have to reparent yourself. You have to reparent yourself. You have to rewire your brain. You have to do a lot of psychological work. Black men do not take care of themselves. They may look fly and shit. They don't, but sometimes Black men, y'all don't go to the doctors. Y'all don't do spiritual maintenance.
That's fact.
I mean, you're carrying around grief. You're carrying around just loads of anger and understanding that does not make you less of a man if you find a way to nurture yourself. That is not gay. That is love. Yes. And finally, doing the work of telling what slavery did to the psyche of Black men. Because a lot of the shit that happened during slavery, a lot of the ways that it made Black men feel, they still feel today. And Black men don't have the freedom to spread their wings in society. They can't go and they can't go in society and in these white places. So who do they turn that on? Black women. They can't be kings in society. That's why you think most pulpits are built like a throne. And the pastor, he can't do that in society, but he can reign over Black women. And this need to dominate, because Black men were dominated. And so they dominate over Black women because they have more power than us. And so really unpack your shit.
Yeah. I think, BJ wanted to say something earlier. I want to
know, Rick, on who on this call is in therapy?
I went to therapy.
You went like a one time?
I went for a while because I was a little bit destructive. And
that's good.
Yeah, no. I had to go to therapy, man. I was divorced, and I think, like you said, you have to unpack your shit. But first off, you got to be aware that you're dealing with some shit, and second of all, you have to want to be better, right? So if you're not around, for me, I'm around a bunch of incredible men that I look up to. So I didn't want to be the broken wheel. You know what I mean? I didn't want to keep being destructive and keep repeating actions that were hurting the people around me. So I took the responsibility of going for myself.
So since yourself. Look, everybody quiet.
Yeah. No, I was letting it finish. No,
I was waiting to see. You the only one. What about you?
No, I've been to therapy. It's been, and obviously you guys know my spiritual background. I think that you also have to, definitely make sure that you are re-examining yourself. Not even. Honestly, really on an everyday basis to make sure that your spiritual man is being fed as well. So, I think the whole point that we're saying here is that we have to examine where we are at and make sure that we're going through any traumas, any unresolved issues that we have from childhood. I think we talked about that on our trauma episode, is that any unresolved issues in childhood are going to show themselves when you grow up and when you get to like your adulthood. And it's not like you can just brush it underneath the rug. It's going to come out in some shape, form, or fashion. And it's always going to come out of somebody that's in close proximity to you. So for Black men, obviously Black women are the closest into proximity to us. So that's usually how it ends up playing out. Is that our traumas end up playing? I mean, and it does happen vice versa, but obviously we're centering on what Black women need.
Right.
So I think we need to realize that, I think we get into the point where we ask Black women so much like, hey, how can we be better? How can we do this? How can we do that? When it really is, no, we need to start looking at ourselves and saying and redefining what masculinity is. Because we have so many conversations saying, oh, well, we're not in our society that we're getting pressed down and we can't be masculine. It's like, no. We can be masculine. It just needs to be redefined. So masculinity doesn't always have to be in I'm aggressive or I'm competitive. It can be I'm nurturing. That's masculine. It can be masculine because as a father, you have to be, right? And then I think we've just been raised to survive. And it's always been a competition where we're lied to by saying there's only one pie. And if you don't get a piece of that pie, then you're not going to eat. And it's like, no, I can go create my own pie. I don't need to be a part of what society tells me that is the pie. I can go make my own pie, so that way I'm not fighting against my brother or I'm not fighting against my sister. I can bring my brother and my sister and say, look, let's go create our own pie. Because if not, I'm going to look at you like you're the enemy. Because if I see you doing better than me, then instead of, hey, how did you get that? Hey, can you help me get to where you're at? It's, oh, how did he get that?
Or why does he deserve that?
Or why does he deserve that? I don't think he deserves it, and I'm going to go
get it.
Do
y'all really be feeling like that's worth
look,
generally speaking, yeah.
I think that growing up, you got to remember we're talking about conditioning, and conditioning is a long-term process, right? So when we're already conditioned to be against each other, that's how we feel. I feel like I don't feel like in relationships that most Black men are trying to dominate their woman. I think we have is like you said, it's a bunch of compressed toxicity. It's a bunch of compressed trauma.
I would say trauma, yeah.
And with our us not feeling like we can communicate, or us not knowing how to communicate, or us growing up in homes with black women who were the protector and the disciplinary. I think that we as black men, because we don't have fathers or we don't have role models, we don't ever have the space to generally talk about how we feel. So we never really learn how to communicate with our wife. We never learn how to communicate with our sister, with the women around us, because what mom says goes. Right? And that's why I talk about the transition from childhood to manhood, because if I learn that my mom is the head of my house as a boy, right, and I don't have anything to say when she says anything, and I'm not allowed to tell how I feel, because what she says goes, and whatever happens in this house stays in this house, right? As a man, when I grow up and I see some of the same traits from my significant other or my spouse, right, I haven't developed the skills to communicate how I feel, because it's always been overlooked for me in my life. Right. So now when I talk, so now when you need me to be a man and you need me to be sensitive and you want to have a real conversation with me that hurts my feelings, I don't have to accept it from you and my anger lashes out, because I've accepted it from women my entire childhood. Yeah. That's why you need men in the households, and that's why we need to see relationships, and that's why we have to have these conversations, because I can't address black women's needs if I don't know what I need, right? And black women can't understand why I'm this way if they don't understand what I've gone through. And vice versa. So these conversations have to be open book forum.
Yes.
You can't just say, I know what black women needs conversation, but what black women can't get what they need from black men until, like you said, until we go do the work on black men.
Yes.
And there has to be a black woman that understands that this process, and it sucks, and you guys shouldn't have to wait for it, and you shouldn't have to go through hell and back to get a good man. But the process of what we've gone through collectively as black people puts us in an awkward situation to where we don't have the benefits or the assets of good lineage or heritage. We've always been put against each other. And so that's just how I feel about, I don't feel like it's trying to be demanding. I feel like it's childish, because we haven't been able to express that, right? So I think that the understanding between the two has to be, man, I got a lot of stuff to say.
I got a question about, you said, I want to just make sure that I understood what you said.
Okay.
You said that black men, I think what you meant, black men do not intentionally dominate.
Yeah, I'm not saying, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm not saying that there's not broken male egos and they dominate their women because they can. But what I'm saying,
so now so I want to just stop you right there, because what you're unintentionally doing is telling me my experience. I'm on the receiving end of the dominance, so you can't say whether it exists or not.
No,
that's
I'm not
like
saying,
with white people. I'm just telling you, because words matter.
Okay.
So when a black woman says that black men dominate in our community, that's not up for debate. That is a fact. Black women have the highest murder rate in the country. And also I want to point out that black men are not inherently more violent than white men. Hell no, white men are a million times more violent than black men.
Yes, ma'am, I agree.
It is because of black men's, and I'm going to explain what proximity means. It's your proximity to us because we are black women. It doesn't matter who we would be in proximity to. The outcome would be the same because of how society treats black women.
Agreed.
And so I really want people to know, when I talk about our murder rate, it is not because black men are inherently more violent.
Right.
No.
Right.
It's because we are black women.
And you guys are in the path of violence.
We're at the intersection of two of the things that this world hates most.
Race and
that is
gender.
Women and black people.
That's bars.
And we happen to be at the intersection of those two things.
That's true.
Yeah, but I wasn't by no means saying that you don't feel dominated, or you are, or I was just going back through the psychological journey of how broken men are and how we get to the point of dominance.
I appreciate that honesty though.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, because after going to therapy, how long I've been going to therapy, my words were so trapped in my chest And no wonder I was lashing out, cussing people out. You know what I'm saying? Going the fuck off.
No, it makes a hell of a difference to be able, like I said, these conversations can't happen from people who haven't done the work, because these turn into arguments, right? And
Right.
These turn
Like
into
me trying to have an emotional, intellectual conversation with a black man sometimes does not happen, because that work to get those words up, to put words to your feelings, y'all have not been allowed to do that, and we need y'all to do that.
Right. Right, and
man,
that's something that we
trying,
can only.
Man. We're trying to get the word out.
But
it's your inner child. You got to talk to your inner child. It starts with your inner child. Like, I was silent so much as a kid. Like, I had so much trauma that I wasn't allowed to process. And I want people to understand the thing about trauma. It's not necessarily the event itself. It's how you're allowed to process it. And so when we have traumatic stuff that happens to us, we don't get to process that shit.
No,
our family sweeps it under the rug, or we have to pretend, or we have to hide, and then that comes all that shame and guilt and anger, and here we are today.
See, and that's the other side of the story, right? Because you've been in your life, you've been oppressed from being able to talk about your feelings, right? And I don't know what it is with this, man. Like,
we don't have enough safe space.
Yeah, we don't have
enough safe space amongst ourselves or anybody else.
I have friends right now. One of my friends, she has what she calls is a red talk, right? Where if the kids come to me like, I need to have this kind of talk, then all she does is listen, right? But that is a conscious decision to allow the children to have a space to unpack what they're feeling, right? I never had that.
Never.
So Miss Elika, when you say you never had that, I understand, right? So as children, like you said with the inner child, right? As children, there's a point where we all want each other to grow up like overnight, right? But if you're not going to do the therapy and you're not doing the work and you don't unpack that stuff that's in you, these conversations and these forums, these podcasts, they don't happen. Right. Because then we feel like everybody else is wrong, and instead of working on ourselves.
And just think about the shallowness of the Breakfast Club. Like, when I wish I could it's shallow intellect, and it really doesn't get down to the nitty gritty bit of things, because you can tell the people who come on the show and the people who are asking the questions haven't really done the emotional labor of like journalism. You know what I'm saying? Like understanding what something is. And no, it's
good. No, you're good. Keep going.
And so I get bored. Like, it's entertaining, but I get bored because I'm like, why didn't he like ask that? I can see the next question that I would ask.
Yeah.
Like, but you know what I'm saying? Digging deep into stuff. I get tired of sensational journalism because it's so I get tired of black people who have these platforms and they don't go deep.
Okay.
Like, we're still swimming on the surface of shit when a lot of us are really ready to dig in.
They're afraid to be canceled. I mean, I don't
think it's that. I don't think it's that at all. Like, a conversation like this, why would somebody get canceled?
No, I'm saying the Breakfast Club.
No, they can't do it.
No, oh, you think they're incapable overall?
Yeah, it's not in their vocabulary.
Right. They're not there yet.
Charlamagne's my guy, and I'm sad at him right now.
Right. I know BJ wanted to chime in, so I'm gonna let you. You want to chime?
Because I mean, honestly, what I was going to say was, like, when it comes to having black men speaking as in how they feel, anything like that, is because they don't have enough safe space. They don't have. There's nobody they feel comfortable enough to get to that point and talk about their feelings, what's bothering them, what they're thinking, and stuff like that. Once we are allowed that safe space, that comfortability with somebody, to where we know that what we tell you isn't going to be said be used against us in any type of way, eventually we'll get to that point.
Hey, what did you call and ask me last week or 2 weeks ago?
I asked you, do you feel like as a black man that you're able to talk and vent to your woman?
That's what he called and asked me, bro. Well,
I think that's true, but I also think that, and this is just my opinion, I think masculinity can only bestow masculinity. So I think in some of those instances, as men,
Lord.
Look, that's what I'm saying. We don't have the men.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think in some of those conversations, I would love to vent to my woman about certain things. There's some things that I should not vent to her about because I need to talk to a brother about And, you know, it happens at barbershops all the time. We go to the barbershop and you end up having a full therapy session while you're getting your hair cut, right? Because you don't have a man that's in proximity that you can talk to, that you feel like can understand you, because you feel like in those places, there's no judgment. Because I know whatever I say in the barbershop stays in the barbershop, right?
No, it don't.
But, well, it don't, but that's how we feel. That's how we feel. But
She ain't lying. Tell us.
That's how we feel.
Heard a lot of stuff
y'all
about.
be gossiping.
Oh yeah, we do.
do.
And we do. But what my point is that we should have a safe place for us, for men, to be able to say, hey, as a healthy black man, and you're in a healthy marriage, or you're in a healthy relationship, or you're a healthy parent, how are you doing it? Can you give me some pointers? Can you walk with me? Can you mentor me? Right? But we are so bred to compete that we feel like I can't ask this question because I'm going to be looked down as either, how come you didn't know that? Nobody taught you this?
You know, that really sucks.
Well, but
It is.
well,
It's the
That's
truth, though.
lonely.
It's
but
the truth.
I know,
but think about it.
Lonely?
So, but think about it though.
Yes, I'm lonely every day.
From the very beginning, right? We are taught to do what? Probably play sports, right? When
Or
you play
rap.
sports,
Or
right?
play-
In most of the sports, it is, oh, how many points did you score? Or, hey, did you beat your defender? Or did you make varsity? Did you make JV? Did you do this? You are always in consistent competition,
work
even in
is hard.
school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
your
even
work
in
is
even in school. How hey, did you get a B? Did you get an A? Oh yeah, I got a B. Oh well, who got a better grade than you? We're always asked those questions, so it's always bred into us to be an individual instead of looking at it as a community. As in, hey, did the class do good? Did you and your friend do good? Did you and your friend make the team? How did the team go? No, it's always the first question is, how did you do?
Yep.
Not only that, but I want to go back to I want to go back to Django real quick when it came down to the like Mandingo fighting, right? Society, or should I say, just the upper class, pit us against each other.
Yes.
Put them two
I was just
together
about to say
and fight
that.
each other.
Yes.
Making them
Yep.
think that they're their own enemies when in
Yes.
fact they're not. Right. So now
Yep.
you got that whole mentality of
he's here.
I got to be the best.
Yep.
I got to be number one because nobody's gonna allow me to be number one except for me.
And
Facts.
it's like
I gotta be
that.
top.
Saying, like, imagine if all the gang members decided to stop scrapping and we came against white folks. You know what I'm saying? Like, put that energy into Roseville,
And
into
protecting
Rockland.
the
Huh.
community.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it would be so different, but black people were taught to betray each other
Facts
from
on
the
facts.
get because it was profitable. It was profitable for black people to betray each other because they needed black people to be submissive. We could not be united and white supremacy
Nope.
exists.
It serves
But
capitalism.
I want to ask my sis on the line, in talking about safe black spaces, I can't imagine not having my homegirls
Yes.
to go to.
Oh,
Black
yeah.
women have historically healed each other.
Tribal.
Yes.
Tribal,
And
yes.
it's very tribal. And
Mhm.
so, sis, I want to hear from you, like, on your experience with healing and kind of like, do you think that's a possibility for black men to have that? But I want to center your experience first.
I think it's possible, but again, I feel like it's on black men have to want to. I think that's one thing that, you guys asked, like you said, what can we do? What do we need to do? You have to have that want to create those spaces
Right.
amongst each other. I know for us, we are intentional about our friend groups and our support systems. Y'all know my group chat is everything.
Yep.
They get me through, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
some of the hardest times, but it's intentional. It's not, something that just happened for us.
Right. Right.
We actually had to put that together and say, we are going to support each other in all of our endeavors. That's where I can go. That's my sounding board, outside of my husband, of course.
Of
but
course.
just be intentional, I think.
Believe that, like, I agree that black men have to liberate each other.
Yes.
Like, black women liberate each other.
Yes.
I cannot put the kind of enthusiasm into my child that his dad can.
Right.
That's facts.
I just can't. And that is what brotherhood is about. And so I think, like, the black men who have been doing the work have to go get their brothers. You know what I'm saying? And I see it happening more and more. But we got too many black men who haven't done the work that are sitting at these tables giving bad advice to black men.
You talking about Derrick Jackson?
And that brings up my next thing
shit.
is there's no in black men brotherhood, there's no accountability.
Yep.
Like,
We
there are no
talked about that.
consequences. There's no consequences for when they harm a Black woman. And that's why they get away with it. There's somebody in our community, we just found out he's getting sued because they found out he spent, he owes the city he has to pay back $500,000. They've been misappropriating funds that are supposed to go to Black people in their community center, and they went to Ella's Dining and spent 7 racks, and come to find out they've been ripping off immigrants who they were supposed to be providing housing, and they've been overcharging them.
Oh my goodness!
And this dude, this man who's over this nonprofit, there's no account. He don't feel no need to step down. Now, if I had done some shit like that, you think I still have a job?
Come on.
Nope.
He doesn't need to have a job.
He doesn't need to have a job. He does not need to have he does not need to be in control of any money. And so I see how white men treat each other, like how they don't see how bad they are. White men cape for each other.
Right.
Even over a white woman.
That's true.
Well,
and that's why I tell white women, you keep protecting the patriarchy. The patriarchy gonna show what they got for your ass.
Well, they do all the time. They don't
just all the time. Look at Blasey Ford, Dr. Blasey Ford. See what white men did to her.
Right. Or look at Trump.
Or look at Trump. How white men protect each other.
Well, and white women voted for him.
And white women voted for him.
Yep.
But the same things that we see our oppressors do, sometimes we do ourselves. And so I see Black men afraid to check their brother on some stuff.
That's true.
That's seen as like a feminine thing. It's not seen as like a thing of integrity and stuff like that.
And I think that's what
Raggio talked about it. Was it last episode where you were saying that, y'all was raised on no snitching?
Yep.
So you're always going to cape for each other and have each other's back.
No snitching,
right.
Well, and I think redefining what masculinity is, right? I think she just said it just now that if you were to hold your brother accountable, it's looked at as feminine. It's looked at as snitching. It's looked at as tattletale,
you're a
right?
hater, bro.
Or you're a hater, right? And in reality, true masculinity is integrity, character, holding people accountable. That should be the honorable thing to do.
Those are leadership qualities.
Those are leadership qualities.
Yep, that's true.
But in the past, how have we seen? What has been the example for Black men? How have we seen Black men holding other Black men accountable? It's been hella violent.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's the thing, though, right? People always tell me that they want to do these programs, and I appreciate a good program or a good community service. But if you're really gonna put change, if we're really gonna go to bat for change, it has to start with purposely taking a group of young men, purposely taking a group of young women, and having the right resources set forth from their childhood up. And because we all deal with our own individual struggles. In my household, my dad was a pastor and a crackhead. Right, so I watched.
Wow, I bet y'all Sunday services were lit.
Sunday services was lit, but Monday was hell. Tuesday was hell. Wednesday we had to go to church, so that was cool. And then the rest of the week was trash. So I grew up in a household where you definitely couldn't say what was going on in our house.
Yeah,
you understand what I'm saying? But I did watch my dad go through therapy, and I did watch him go through rehab, and I did watch him rebound and make quite a bit of money, doing better things and living a better life. So I got to see firsthand. I didn't really have he was in the house, but I didn't have a dad. I had a man in the house. Right. You know what I mean? So I didn't learn how to do the things. So for me, purposely, I decided that I wasn't going to be anything like my dad. And I ended up just like my dad, except without drugs, because all I knew how to handle things was how he handled things. Right? Yeah. So I had to go through the therapy to open up to someone who could help me understand my trauma and my triggers and the things that I dislike, right? Instead of, so I was that shutdown person, right? You talk to me crazy, I'm just like, oh, you can die. You know what I'm saying? I'll talk to you whenever. You know what I mean? But that's not a resolution. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't help anyone. Right. All it does is damage all my relationships. So that's just for myself. But individually, I think that men have to be able, like you said, and like Photo B said, we have to be able to have that safe space. We have to have somewhere where we can talk to other men. You know what I'm saying? Because people would treat me as if my life was good because my dad was present, right? So the perception of me growing up, right, and my dad making some good it was oh, you had a silver spoon, right? Nah, I didn't have a silver spoon, bro. We were sleeping in cars. you know what I mean? So
like, you mean healthy. We want healthy
relationships.
Right.
in the house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
No, it's keys. It's not just okay to. So when you have these old heads bringing up these young kids and they're giving them guns, right? And they're showing them how to sell fake drugs, and they're fighting over I'm from Meadowview or I'm from Oak Park, and nobody owns a piece of that fucking property.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? We don't own shit there, but we're fighting over a zip code in a territory, right? Or a funk or a beef, and that shit is passed down generationally.
Yep.
Right? And so then black women have to stand in the gap. They got to do all the fasting. They got to do all the praying. They got to do all the protecting. They got to deal with all the police phone calls. They got to bail the niggas out. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then we're like, oh, why are black women angry? Because they're tired, bruh.
Exhausted. Come on.
They're tired. But nobody wants to talk about these conversations.
No, they always say, and I had to like check this pastor one time because she was trying to get on me she's like, why are you showing up like this? Why do I have to see your anger in public? And I told her, I said, you know what? It would really be more helpful for me if you ask me why I'm angry versus just telling me that. I already know that I'm angry, but the reason why I stay in that place because no one even gives a shit to ask me why.
Right.
What's wrong, sis?
Right.
Who hurt you, sis?
Right. Well, that just makes you
freeing.
more angry when somebody asks you, why are you how come you're always angry instead of, yo, how can we help in this space to
like
make
what's
you
wrong?
Right.
Like what's why, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And that's
Tell
the
me
only
I'm
way.
angry. I already know I'm angry, God damn it.
And I think that's the only way to actually heal, right? You have to get to the root of the issue. I think too often, not only just personally in government and community, we are so focused on the symptom instead of the root. So we don't ever get to the why. And I think that's when you really get to the true healing, because you can get to a place where you ask, hey, why are you so angry? Why are you always yelling? Instead of, hey, what did your household look like? Was there a lot of yelling in there? Is that how you saw conflict being resolved? And is that what you most identify with? Or do you yell because maybe you feel like that you were not heard? And how can then you get to the more rude question was, how can I better hear you? So that way you don't have to get to a point where you are yelling, where we can resolve it at the root instead of resolving it at the symptom.
So you're talking about communication again?
Talking about communication, transparency,
talking about accountability,
all of that, understanding, all of that. Yeah. All right.
All the things that we were never taught to do.
Well, you know what? And that's why media outlets like this are extremely important. So that way these conversations can then be duplicated at homes and again, with spouses and partners and things like that. So to bring us to the final question, because I think this is kind of where we're trying to get at, and I think we already answered it, but I think we're gonna hit it home, because I know there's a lot of black men that listen to this. There's a lot of black women that listen to this. How can black men better support black women so we can get to the root?
I wanted to end on that question too by centering our relationship with trans black women.
Okay.
Because you see trans black women being murdered, right? But you don't see trans black men being murdered. And so I want to break that down, because it is when a woman transitions to a man, there's no problem with that. You don't see studs getting killed, right? You don't see trans black women getting killed.
Right.
You see black men who have taken on femininity being murdered.
Right.
And that is what we mean when we say there is a deeply ingrained hatred for black women and for black men to even appear feminine gets you killed. And I think that deserves some unpacking, because my best friend is a trans black woman, and I cannot imagine how I can live my life without her, and for one of my brothers to take her life. And so I really want black men to know that that is something that they have to unpack, that y'all have to unpack on your own. That's what I need y'all to do for me.
Okay.
Is to unpack that toxic masculinity that's been passed down from generation to generation. Unpack why it's hard for y'all to cry, because we need y'all to cry. We need y'all to get that shit out, and not on us. We need y'all to go get your brother. We need y'all to build community and safe space and go to therapy and talk to your inner child, the one that was abandoned, the one that saw his mom get beat, the one that saw his dad treat his mom like shit. We need you to talk to him and hold him and hug him and let him know that you see him and that he would never let anybody else do that to another kid. That's what we want y'all to do.
Yeah.
I'm just listening.
Me too. I don't got nothing to say.
Yeah.
That was everything. Because I was going to say the same thing. Do the work for yourselves that you need to do on yourselves, because we could tell you until we're blue in the face, but you have to decide that I want to be a better person, a better man for yourself, because you can't do what we need you to do if you're still carrying around all that trauma and all that toxicity. Like, you have to be intentional about the work. We can't do it for you. So that's why it's kind of like a slap in the face when it's like, okay, well, what do you need? I need you to be better. I need you to do better for yourself.
So let me ask a question. So when that No Name and J. Cole situation came up, and that bar where he said, I need you to help us get there, was that was a trigger because of that very notion? Okay.
Exactly, because it's like, I can't unpack your trauma for you. I can't, I can't do that for you.
Right. Okay.
I can't do that. There's some stuff we can't do for you.
Right.
No.
And you guys are super women to us as kids. So when you, I think that like you're not supposed to bear that burden. But I think for some reason, man, I think innately black men find all of their reassurance, all of their safety, I think they go to black women for all of that stuff, right? So when
some of us do.
Well, yeah, some of us, not all of us. Not all of us. You're right. I'm speaking.
No, I know.
Okay.
I know. For us.
Yeah.
Yes. I got you.
He said so, not some of us, but now I'm speaking for us.
Hey.
us at this forum.
Yes. Because we love black women here.
No, that's facts.
And we
That's
will
facts.
always stand up for, speak for, advocate for. Hey, because what I don't understand, and I'm sorry that I just don't understand being birthed by a black woman and then growing up to hate black women. I just don't get it. I don't get
with black
because
sisters.
you saw, because they're just doing what they seen their daddy do. They don't know. They don't even know they hate black women. You saw your daddy not help out.
Yeah.
You saw your daddy talk to your mom crazy.
Yeah.
You see men not respect your mom. You don't see your mom. You don't see people who look like your mom being respected in society. You don't know nothing else.
Yeah, and that's probably true. And that's a question that I gotta ask my black men and my black brothers. Is like that's one of them. The other one is how do you get birthed by a black woman and then don't find black women attractive? That's crazy to me too. But again,
you already talked about the media and the music videos. And
no, I know,
all
but
the
you
little
see your
Latina
mom every
chicks
day.
And, yeah, but your mom's not running around with her butt cheeks out.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying.
No, but that is what it is, bro. You can't talk about the music industry and the influence that it has on the psyche of someone and then not take that into account.
No, and I totally get that. But what I'm saying is, for you to say that somebody that looks like your mother is not beautiful is crazy.
It is. It's stupid as fuck.
It's
crazy.
It's stupid.
Or
stupid
all this fat phobia with black men. Like, they don't like fat black men. Like, your mama's fat.
Half the time. It's like big mama.
I'd be like, dog, your mom got a fat ass. I'm that friend.
No, you know what though? Also though too, if in fact that you are, I think that some people, you know how black men say stupid shit like a white woman wouldn't trip off of this shit because she didn't have to raise your stupid black ass with your black ass daddy. That's why. So I think that a lot of these dudes suffer from low self-esteem or traumatic experiences from from being raised by a single mom or whatever, and they're like, I don't want to deal with that shit as a grown man. It doesn't make you less of a shitty person.
No, I understand.
You're just dealing with somebody who deals with more shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
All right. Well, we thank you, and hopefully when this COVID-19 situation goes away, that we can have you actually here physically with us on the show.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
I think this was definitely one of the dopest interviews that we've done thus far.
Yeah, this
and before you go, I just want to get your quick thoughts on The Black is King, because I know that you watched it.
Oh, I thought we was gonna do One Gotta Go.
We are.
Oh,
I haven't unpacked. I feel like it was really good. It was beautiful. I think I want to lean into the voices of people who have more intellectual things to say.
Okay.
I would have, I've read a couple, thoughts of what some people have to say about how Africans were displayed, and I respect those thoughts. I appreciate Beyonce. I think that she could not have done that movie without having to engulf herself in African history. And it was very, very evident that she took the history of Africa and the culture very seriously. And there's something called mounting, and she talks about Oshun. And mounting is when you become possessed by your Orisha. And so I think I want people to not romanticize or, what she's talking about when it comes to African spirituality. African spirituality is the oldest spirituality in the world. And so although she made it look cute, that shit is very real. It's a real, the religion of the Yoruba people, that's very real. Orishas are very real. And so I don't want people to just make it like it's this cute thing because Beyonce had on a yellow dress in Lemonade and she's talking about Oshun. No, that stuff is very real. And so that's my thought on just how, and I worry because white people steal every damn thing.
Oh, my
and so
they'll have dashikis on in a little bit.
I worry about like our culture in mainstream media because white people are going to eventually steal it and profit from it.
They had to take off for the what's her name, Nancy Pelosi.
Oh yeah.
Oh, when they.
Oh my God.
The Kente.
They had the Kente cough on the moment of the silence.
When they all kneeled.
Yeah, when they kneeled for George
Yeah,
Floyd.
with the kid. I said,
Oh my Lord. Who was like?
He had approved.
Y'all know who gave him the Kente?
Oh yeah.
The Black Congressional Caucus.
Exactly.
Hey, when we talk about the culture vultures, here, I'll sell it to you.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, Elika, we definitely appreciate you being on. And
I loved it.
Okay, man. And we will have to have you back on.
I'm adding you on Facebook right now.
Yeah.
She's on mine already.
Okay. All right.
I got a job though, so I had to tone it down on Facebook. So it's not.
Hey, I'm wild on Facebook. Don't judge me by my Facebook content.
I can't even post the stuff I used to post. I used to be crazy wild.
She still got a job.
She got that job. You can't be losing them. Can't be
Yeah.
losing them health benefits during the pandemic.
Hey, she's not missing.
I got a full-time job with benefits during the pandemic. You can't tell me what my
man,
God
come
can do.
on.
I know I'm not stupid.
You gotta be a good steward now.
Be a good steward and keep that twerking video to yourself. You're a professional, Elika. You are somebody's mama.
That ain't never stopped the twerk video. Being somebody's mama. They just twerking right next to the kids.
Health benefits do. All right. Well, we are honored to have you on, and I think everybody here was very appreciative of you giving your insight and your intellect and just giving probably a different perspective that what our listeners are used to listening to. So, and that's one of the things that we wanted to aim for, is just giving voices to the Black culture. And that's everybody. That's not just our perspective, not what we think. It's everybody that has something intellectual and telling their stories. So
yeah, and I wrote y'all a little jingle. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Hold up.
It's the Reverb Experiment. Ooh. I'm just kidding, y'all. I didn't.
Wait, no. Time out. One more time.
You did your best.
I'm gonna take that.
I'm so mad.
Let me see. It's the Reverb. It's the Reverb Experiment.
I actually like that.
Yeah.
Hey, we was looking for an intro.
Hey, one more time.
We might have to cut that clip.
Do that one more time. I'm taking it.
All right, we're gonna let you go before this turns into a 2-hour interview. And
How long has it been?
Man, hey, the topics that we talking about, this could have been a full-on episode just talking about it, because it is a heavy subject. But we appreciate you. I know you got the little.
So dope.
Thank you.
I'm so happy I was able to talk to y'all.
We appreciate that love.
Good. You said that, so when you add me on your page, man,
I
don't
will.
be judging.
Yeah, we're gonna be checking to see if you're sharing the episode.
She gonna be like, this nigga said what about strap-ons? I said it.
All right.
Oh my God. All right. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's go. Let's go. If you just let, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. If you just let.